so they could procreate. It was so bad, y'all. They were already in a spiritually binded state. Lot and his family were already in a spiritually binded state. They were already attached to what they had attached themselves to the degree that they didn't want to leave. Lot, having experience with Father Abraham, meaning knowing what's morally correct and what's unmorally correct, I felt had more of a conscience of righteousness than those that he surrounded himself with. He did not make the best of decisions. But it's not that he did not know what was right. He just made bad decisions to do what was wrong. His wife was from Sodom and Gomorrah, so she was already encapsulated within that environment and the spiritual attachments or spiritual wickedness that came with that way of life. Which is why she looked back and she was turned to ash. The daughters, his daughters, being a part of him and the mother, they have that double-mindedness as well, as such as Lot, the double-mindedness. But it's even worse than what Lot is. Even worse. Every lineage, every generation that goes on, it gets worse. Meaning that the spiritual hold of what's holding you, what's binding you, what's bonding you, it gets worse. And if it is left unchecked, if it goes without the proper healing, one will be devoured in that of which is devouring it. One will be devoured in which of that is devouring it. So when Noah and his family was being saved from Sodom and Gomorrah, and the angels tell the wife and the daughters, go ahead, y'all leave. Y'all remember that the husbands the husbands of the daughters didn't even want to leave and go with them. They didn't want to leave and go with them. They wanted to stay. They're like, no, we staying. I'm not about to go with my wife. No. I don't care about her that much. I'm right here where I want to be. I'm comfortable right here. So the husbands got left. The daughters, Lot and his wife, were leaving. The wife had second thoughts. Like, I'm about to leave my native home where I grew up. What's wrong with how we was living? What's happening? She turns back. She's turned to ash. Lot escapes with his daughters, and they go into the mountains to hide, y'all. This is what I be telling y'all. When people begin to experience shame, this is spiritual shame. This is different from physical shame. Spiritual shame is demonstrated in different ways. And people confuse it with physical shame. Physical shame, you wear some old tennis shoes, somebody talk about, oh, you got them old tennis shoes on, and you feel physically shamed about that, right? No. Spiritual shame is on a whole different level. Spiritual shame, when you want to hide from yourself because of what you know to be morally and internally improper, incorrect way of living, being, seeing, creating, living. You can't even look at yourself. You can't contend with yourself because you can't contend with the part of yourself that is attached to Elohim. And then you're put in a situation where Elohim put someone in your life, or not just put someone in your life, or save you from a condemning situation or circumstance, and you just got saved, but you are still operating and functioning in a spirit of contentment. And now you feel shamed because you know that you just received favor and grace when you didn't deserve it. That is a whole different type of shame. So Lot and his daughters flee into the mountains. Lot is so spiritually condemned to the degree he takes his daughters and have them to go hide in the mountains, in the caves. Lot stayed in this spiritually binded state of mind, body, and spirit for a very long time, to the degree that the daughters was like, you gonna make us stay here? We got to get something out of this. We got to get something out of this. Sometimes when people get to the degree, to the point where they spiritually checked out, it started to be that blurred line between what's right and what's wrong, to the point that one can't function. Men especially. Women has that trait from Eve, to the point that they can do very morally condemning things and still be able to function at a higher level than a man. Because man is connected to Elohim on a different level of spiritual contentment than a woman, because they're held to a higher degree of responsibility when it comes down to being righteous and walking in the laws and the commandments of the Father, because they're supposed to lead the pack. Whenever you're a leader of something, you have this authority. That's why you hear me say a lot that's why you hear me say a lot to the man that it is your birthright to be. It is your birthright to be. Every man, it is your birthright to be. But if you are not in alignment with Elohim, you cannot be or become what you are destined to be or become or have authority over. Whether it be a woman, whether it be territory, whether it be followers, your influence, whatever it may be, you cannot have the proper authority and reign within your kingship if you yourself don't see yourself as a king. If you're not in alignment with the laws and commandments and decrees of Elohim, you can't receive the instruction in order to be able to be what you're called to be and to do what you're called to do. You lost. And if you lost, the people that you're supposed to be leading gonna be lost too. So when it comes down to receiving judgment, and judgment being placed on the condemnation of the spirit, because you know right from wrong, and you know what you're doing is wrong, you have a higher price to pay. And that's what happened to Lot. He knew right from wrong. He knew at the time of right from wrong when Father Abraham decided to separate and split ways from him. Father Abraham really didn't have a full understanding as to why he was being nudged spiritually to separate himself from Lot, but Elohim did. And because Father Abraham was so connected to Elohim and hearing the instruction of Elohim, he separated from Lot even when he didn't want to, or he didn't have a full understanding as to why. But he was nudged spiritually to separate from Lot and to give him and given the understanding, the surface level, I would call understanding, that we have to split because I have too much abundance and then you also have accumulated too much abundance. There can't be two head of households under one household. Now you are to the age and to the degree where it's time for you to create your own household. You no longer have to be under my wing. I've showed you what a man is supposed to do and how he's supposed to live righteously, because you have been under my wing and you've been able to see how I've been able to do things and still be abundant and still be fruitful from following Elohim. So now it's time for you to go your separate way. I'm going to go my separate way. And that was the surface level understanding that Elohim graced Father Abraham with, but not truly understanding or knowing that Elohim knew the path and what was already still attached to Lot, that he was going to have to go through and experience because of who his parents were and what was still attached to him, that he was going to have to go through and uproot from his life. When Father Abraham and Lot separated, Father Abraham told Lot where he was going. I'm going to go this way, you go that way. Lot was given instruction on where to go after. He was given spiritual instruction on where to go and where not to go. He decided to go where he wasn't supposed to be at, and to create a life there. And that's why he experienced destruction, the fall of his lineage. But it doesn't mean that they were wiped out. No, they weren't wiped out. But you would notice as time go on and you hear about the chosen and the Israelites and their experience with Lot people and how they were being defied and betrayed by Lot's lineage because of their disconnect to Elohim. So just because y'all family does not mean that y'all the same. The spiritual binding and bondages and things that's attached to them is not the same as what's attached to you. Everybody have their own spiritual walk, and you have to go through it. And I pray that you have the spiritual discernment and know-how and certain things that how to maneuver through life, especially in this day and time, because things can get wicked, and limit the access that people have to you, so you can limit the spiritual wickedness, dark principalities, and dark forces that are allowed in your auric field, because they will taint it and make you think that something that is wrong is right. And I just want to bring this up because it's weighing on my head. So a lot of people see that I still listen to secular music. I still listen to rap. I still listen to lust-filled music. I do. And it's something that I know I need to work on. Do I plan to give it up today, tomorrow, or maybe a month from now, or a year from now? I really can't tell you. I have at some points of my life had periods where I don't listen to secular music. But I'm not going to lie to you. I love it. I love it. And I know I'm not supposed to love it, but I do. I feel like it's a part of me that can relate to this music because I grew up off of it, right? I grew up off of it. So I have a spiritual attachment to this music because my spirit can relate to this music. It's a form of communication that helps me to be able to express and communicate my emotions. Is it right? No. Because of some of the language and some of the things that it says, but I'm still a work in progress. But if I were to allow something like that to shame me, spiritually condemn me to the degree where I don't share certain parts of myself that still needs to be improved or worked on, I would not be being authentic in who I am, in my expression of self. And Elohim cannot bless what's hidden. Elohim cannot bless what is hidden, whether good or bad. Your ability to stand within who you are as an individual, whether good, whether bad, whether still needing improvement, development, growth, your ability to be truthful and authentic with that to a degree is what helps you to be able to still receive favor and grace from Elohim. So you will have people to try to condemn you or judge you because they say, oh, well, she's still listening to this. This means that she may not be spiritually gifted or have a connection to Elohim like she's supposed to. No. I go to the extreme. I do the extreme of extreme of extreme. More extreme than people that sit there and listen to gospel music. I go to the extreme when my father asks me to move, or when my father asks me to do something. Even if I'm still listening to my secular music, whatever it may be, if the Father tells me to stop, and this is a period or a season of my life where I need to be grounded in something else, then yeah, I will. But my Father knows me, and my Father has seen my growth and my development and where I came from and how I built myself up. This ain't somebody that built me up. This ain't no congregation that built me up. This ain't no religious leader or my parents or my grandmother or anybody that built me up spiritually. I built me up spiritually, and my father, my mentor, built me up spiritually. I am who I am today because of my father and myself and nobody else. Because had I allowed myself to be led by the people who were actually supposed to teach me what's moral, to lead with integrity, to be, to do, to create, to live, to fulfill, I would not be in the position I am today. I would not be this person I am today. So you have to know who you are, what you are, where you came from, and whose you are, regardless of what spectators may have to say. You have to know who you are in Elohim. And you got to move as such. And you got to be confident in that. And you can't allow for nobody or nothing to deter you from where you going, who you becoming. Because everybody is growing and improving. Some people are just too scared to say what it is that they're growing from or growing into. You be surprised, and a lot of y'all are starting to see it today. You be surprised what a lot of these religious people battle with behind closed doors. You be surprised. And some of them be like leaders of the congregation, of these religious institutions. And your head would be spinning with some of the sin, the demonic possessions, the dark entities, principalities, and spiritual wickedness that have a hold on these people. And they live in a condemning spirit because they allow for themselves to be spiritually shamed to the degree that they don't open up about what they're facing or what they're going through or what they're experiencing. And they do it in private. They do it in private. The fact that you are experiencing sin and you know that there is some type of demonic possession over you, whether it be a principality, meaning principles, the way that your life is set up, the way that your morale is, your integrity. You see what I'm saying? Your character. Or dark forces that you invite in, like relationships, partnerships, things that have a hold on you, money, possessions, things of that sort, of the material world. You see what I'm saying? These things. Or spiritual wickedness having to do with your mentality, your way of thinking, your way of being, your way of carrying and operating and functioning. Everybody has some type of sin that they need to overcome. Because for as long as we live on Mother Gaia, we will always be fighting sin. You have people out here that is so religious and so spiritually supposed to be led by the Father, but they are very judgmental to the degree that Elohim condemns them through judgment. Because they have this high and mighty way of being and seeing and creating and living and fulfilling, to the degree that they operate from a place of envy and jealousy. Because they can't expose themselves to the truth, that the authenticity of self, like you expose yourself to the truth, the authenticity. They can't expose themselves like that. They feel too vulnerable. They feel too naked. That's what they call it. They feel too naked. That goes back to the story that they talk about with Adam and Eve. And after Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and bad, at this degree, this form of purity of being cloaked had basically been removed. And it says, it uses the analogy of them being ashamed of being naked. Being ashamed of being naked of the truth that they was exposed to, that they weren't exposed to before. That's honestly what it was. It had nothing really to do with them being naked. Literally. It had to do with the exposure of truth that they were exposed to, the level of truth that they were exposed to, that they had not knew before but know now. It's this shame, this spiritual shame that came over them, knowing good from bad, knowing that what action they just took and partook in was betrayal against the Father. That's shame. I'm ready to spiritually condemn myself, which is why Adam went into hiding. Eve didn't go into hiding. Adam did. Adam went and hid. And when God called out in the Garden of Eden and he said, Adam, where are you? Why are you hiding from me? And Adam, Adam, where are you? Why are you hiding from me? When God says this to Adam, Adam responds and says to Elohim, because I'm naked. I'm naked with this new truth that exists in me, that I just betrayed my Father. I did not know before that I was betraying my Father, but I know now that I've betrayed my Father, and now I'm spiritually condemning myself to the degree that I can't face you. I need to hide now. I need to hide. I gotta hide my face. I gotta hide, cause I'm going through this spiritual shame of condemnation of the spirit, of the actions that I took against my Father. Women don't have that same condemnation of spirit as men do. And like I said, it's because men are held at a higher degree of judgment than the woman, because the man is meant to lead. He's been created to lead, to have authority of those that he has created, and also to the woman in which he first created. The woman is a part of me, so I am a co-creator in the creation of her. And anything that is created through her, I am also a creator in that as well. I have been given spiritual authority to lead those that follow me in a path of being spiritually moral and have integrity, and to lead by the laws, commandments, and decrees of Elohim. That's why in this day and time, things is going to, it's going down the drain in regards, I was going to say something else, going down the drain in regards to family dynamics. Because if a man lacks the spiritual know-how or knowledge on how to properly lead a family, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. No matter how much a woman try to step up to the plate to be that spiritual leader, or to help the man to expand his knowledge in regards to spirituality, if that woman always is sitting in a position of higher spiritual authority than the man, it's not going to work. That's not equally yoked. That's not how it was designed and structured. Remember, I keep telling y'all about these systems. It wasn't systematically created that way. That's why when you talk about same-sex marriages and things like that, is a big debate going on about that. People be looking at more so the 3D surface. If I love him and he loves me, or if she loves me and I love her, what is the big deal if it's same-sex? It's more so having to do with the spiritual behind it, the spiritual aspect and the spiritual redemption of it, than having to do with the physical. It's more so about the spiritual redemption of it and the spiritual aspect of it than having to do with the physical. Physically, you just intimately in lusting after the same sex. It's more so cardinal. That means that one altar has already been penetrated. All right, cool. One altar has already been penetrated. That's the body. What about when you get to the spirit? All right, now you are starting to progress, and you not just lusting after this same sex individual, but now you're starting to want to create a life with them, be in partnership with them. Now this is starting to go against the divine order and the laws of Elohim and how life was created, and procreation, and the reason behind procreation, and why it exists, and what's the spiritual inclination behind it as to why it's so eminently important. But the cardinal self wants what it wants. That's how we want when it comes down to our desires. I want what I want, and I want it now. And that's our problem. I want what I want, and I want it now. I don't even care how it is that I want it, or why I want it, or why it's important to me. I just know I want it. But it's like, why do you think that you want it? Sit down with your mama, your father, or whoever that you have the ability to communicate with, your grandma, and ask them about your lineage and the things that they suffer with spiritually. This is why people need to have, families need to sit down and have deeper conversations in regards to spirituality and why it's so important, and talking about more than what's talked about in the pews and congregations, and just deciding to condemn or judge an individual because of same sex. You have to sit down and properly communicate as to why it's considered to be morally incorrect and improper. Because once people have an understanding as to why it is, you will have a better understanding as to how to correct it. It can be uprooted. It can be uprooted. It's not going to be easy, because it's been imprinted spiritually into your lineage from time back when. It can go back when. Whenever your lineage became spiritually corrupted with this spirit, which means that it's some type of angelic, fallen angel principality that was put on your lineage as the reason as to why you're having this urge to have a same, I hate saying homosexual, I just think it's so disturbing. It's so disturbing to have this same sex lust or interest in another individual. It has to do with your ancestral lineage and the spiritual wickedness that they was facing. I can talk to you. It's a spiritual corruptness, but it goes back to the times of the fallen angels, when they start sleeping with sons of man's daughters. And it went from, once they had that fall to sleeping with sons of man's daughters, they fell so hard. This was a curse that had been put on them by Elohim. This was a curse that had been put on them by Elohim. They just became so morally corrupt that it started to become hard to discern between what was right and what was wrong. They were mentally checking out, physically not there, emotionally unaware, emotionally unaware and disturbed, and emotionally unaware and emotionally disturbed and spiritually unaware of how morally corrupt them choosing to make that decision to defy the laws, commandments, and decrees of Elohim and go against what Elohim had divinely put in order to sleep with sons of man's daughter, to the degree that they even start to lust after sons of man. And archangels began to have sex with the same sex. Because y'all know that all angels are man. They're men. They're men. None of them are women. That's why the first lust was them lusting after women. I'm going to tell y'all a story. I'm still doing research on it though, y'all. But I'm going to tell y'all something. Everything was going good as Elohim was creating Adam. In the creation of Adam. Right? As Elohim and the angels create Adam, they okay with that. They fine with that. Everything is okay. It's not until Elohim decides to give Adam a partner that the angels begin to be envious and jealous of sons of man. They became jealous of sons of man. They became jealous of the creation that they created when Elohim gave them something that they themselves did not have. They don't marry. They don't procreate. They didn't have that. And I told y'all that as watchers of Mother Gaia, of sons of man, as a co-creator in the creation of sons of man, they had authority and dominion over territories within Mother Gaia to be able to rule over man. So they are sitting there thinking, wondering, we don't have wives. You ain't create us a wife. This is why, I'm going to tell you, this is why Lucifer, the devil, this is why he got mad, y'all. This is why he was upset with Elohim. It had nothing to do with him wanting to be what people say God. He was already a God. He wasn't the supreme creator, but the only reason he wanted to take the position of being the supreme creator is because he wanted to create his own. He wanted to defy the laws and the commandments and the degrees of Elohim to the degree he wanted to procreate. He wanted his own lineage of people, but he wanted to create it. It wasn't until Elohim gave Adam a mate that it disturbed the sons of God, the angels. So much so that Lucifer wanted Eve. Lucifer wanted to sleep with Eve, y'all. Lucifer, the devil, wanted to sleep with Eve. He wanted Eve for himself. They take a lot of this scripture in the Bible and they mess it all up. So they talk about the serpents, right? Which I can go more about that, but that's more so like on the esoteric side, more having to do with more metaphysical and mystical knowledge-based information that is not, it can't be scientifically proven, right? None of which what I'm saying can be scientifically proven, and so they will decide not to put certain things out here. A lot of this can't even be scientifically proven, but it's been out for so long that removing it would cause so much chaos that they allow for it to still exist, which is why every time they go to recreate this recreate the Bible in the States, they always change something up to the degree that it's going to be a decline in information and knowledge in each new Bible that they create, each new version of the Bible that they create. Because if they wanted to boil it down to the degree that if it cannot be scientifically proven, to get rid of it, which is why you have a lot of theologians that study theology that is there to basically do research for the governing bodies in order to try to scientifically prove this information, because after they have a timeline to the degree that if it cannot be scientifically proven, to get rid of it. To remove it from the Bible. Which is why you have, along with theologians, you have people like archaeologists that go around and study the lay of the land, and they study what's buried under the land, to be able to bring forth the scientific evidence to the governing bodies to help prove what theology says in regards to the Bible. I keep telling y'all, all of this stuff is spiritual. Everything, any job, when I talk about, like, aside from like private corporations that just starting to like get into like the technical degree of like the metaphysics of Mother Gaia and things like that, and starting to experience more so of the technological aspects of things. A lot of this stuff is a lot of these jobs is stemmed from proving what's biblical. A lot of government jobs, I'm gonna just be honest with y'all, a lot of government sector jobs, if not in place for the people, it's in place to, when I'm talking about like stuff where you need clearance and stuff in order to be able to know certain things. I'm talking about those jobs, the important jobs. Yeah, those jobs. I'm not trying to make you feel unimportant, but I'm just talking about like the stuff where you need clearance in order to be able to review certain information and certain knowledge. It's because a lot of it is about proving what can be scientifically proven in the Bible, because they want to get rid of this information. So like your archaeologist is there to support your theologians in regards to theology. It has to do with anything in the religious structure, certain sides of it, or whatever it must be. That's why even with your religious institutions, all of them still have requirements that they have to meet in order to be able to be in the representation of a religious institution, or they cannot exist. So they can say what they want to say, but when it comes down to their sermons, what they preach to you, what they teach to you, all of it has to be proved by the governing bodies that has authority over these religious institutions, because they want to know what these leaders, religious leaders and congregations are teaching the people, because they want to still have control over the people. Let me make sure that what you're teaching the people and what they're learning is not going to defy or go against the things that we already have in place. Because we still have to have control over the people, even though we tell the people that you are the people. You are not the people. There never was a such thing as the people. It's just been manipulated and designed and systematically created to the degree of making you believe and have a perception of thought that you are in control when you're not truly in control. If that ain't a genius manipulative tactic that has ever been created by the fallen angels, by the fallen angels' children, I'm trying to tell you. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. To the point that ages and centuries of people have come to the degree of believing a perception of truth that is not true. Which is why you have a lot of different countries looking at a lot of people in the Americas as if y'all crazy, because y'all crazy. Because how can the truth exist under y'all nose for so long and y'all still be so unaware of what the truth really is when it's staring you right in your face? And y'all get so distracted. Like, I would rather for somebody to tell me the truth that it's not we the people. I would rather for somebody to tell the truth it's not we the people. Just like other countries do. At least they're being honest with you. America give people the perception that y'all really have control over some shit y'all don't got control over. And even when people get in position and rise to what people would call a higher sense of authority within the hierarchical system, they have to agree to certain terms and requirements to the degree that it's somebody over top of them giving them orders to abide by in order to stay in this higher ranking position over all of the lower ranking people, to the degree that they be tweaking out. Other women starting to make them tweak out because of this information that they're withholding from y'all, even down to fucking universities and stuff like that. If y'all really knew the truth behind these universities and these educational systems that was set up and put in place, and how deep this shit goes in regards to the manipulation of the mind, of the body, of the spirit, and tricking y'all into believing that y'all are actually doing something that y'all not doing. They're a part of something that they're not really a part of. That they have more authority and control over things that they really do not have no power and no control over. That's why when you get to a certain degree, you're trying to get justice for something. It's about justice for all, and you're trying to get justice, and it get to a point where you get so high up on the hierarchical system to those that are supposed to be in authority, and they start to get to the degree where they don't even have a lie for you no more. They don't even have a reasonable doubt for you no more. I call it reasonable doubt because it starts to make you doubt the fact that you will never receive justice. You will never receive justice. Not physical justice. You will never receive physical justice. Not unless LOM smack his hand down on the terrain and tell him that, oh no, you better give this individual justice, or This whole manipulation scandal that y'all got going on, I'm about to rip it down. I'm about to take that whole cover and rip it from underneath y'all feet. That's the only time an individual ever gets justice. And people be thinking like, how is that possible? How is that possible that somebody just go on trial and they set somebody up for murder to take a plea for murder, and God said, no, that ain't about to happen. That ain't about to happen. That ain't about to happen. And people are like, how it go that way? How this happen? They receive justice. That's crazy. They receive spiritual justice, because as above, so below. Because if it ever had to go by the laws and the laws, if it ever had to go by the laws that were set in the physicality of Mother Gaia, nobody will receive justice. Nobody. And I do mean nobody. Nobody will receive justice. These things that are set in place to try to manipulate y'all minds, y'all bodies, and y'all spirits, it bothers me, y'all. It bothers me. It really does bother me. It does something to my soul, to the point where I have sat with LOM for hours on end, expressing my disdain for how things have gotten to be where they are for so long. And all LOM keep telling me is that chaos has to happen in order for something new to be created. And I get so pissed every time that I'm being told that truth, because I know it's true, but I just don't want to hear it. I just don't like it, because I'm still son of man. At the end of the day, I want what I want, and I want justice. Justice for all. Yeah, I really do want justice for all. But I don't want flawed justice, though. Because a lot of people live by a degree of flawed justice. I want justice, but that's why I know I gotta accept things for what it is, and know that the fall has to happen to all in order for something new to be built. But it's sad when it has to go to this degree in order for it to happen. But when you think about how messed up things are on Mother Gaia, you will begin to understand how flawed the system truly is, y'all. How flawed the system truly is. How flawed the system truly is.